How's it going, everyone? I'm Keegs, and I am here once again with Ben. Say hi, Ben.
Hello.
And we are going to be talking about the third and, more importantly, the fourth episode of the new Ahsoka series. So, starting off with episode 3, I mean, really, Ben, I really feel like not a lot happened, to be honest with you. They showed kind of at the beginning there, Sabine was starting to train and getting back into her old habits, and I did enjoy that and her little fight sequence with Huyang. What about you? What did you think?
No, I mean it was a good episode. It wasn't like bad or anything, and it wasn't like a side quest or something. It wasn't filler. Like there was a little bit of development, and they were getting from point A to point B. A lot of times they just gloss over that, but
yeah, it was like development time for the rest of the
and we got to see
series.
Ahsoka be a little bit, let herself relax a little bit more.
Yeah, she's starting to kind of crack smiles every once in a while, which I feel like is intentional, right? Where she was very serious at the beginning of the episode 1 and 2, and now I feel like she is starting to kind of feel like a little bit more like her old self now that she's kind of back with Sabine and training again.
Yeah, I get that impression too. This episode also makes it really clear that Sabine has almost no aptitude for the Force.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I agree with you, but I also feel like this episode is, to me, kind of telling us that at some point in this series, she is probably going to use the Force.
Yeah, I agree. If she isn't already, so I don't think it's going to manifest in like
the traditional sense.
Yeah. She's not going to be like a Jedi, but she maybe it'll manifest in her art or some other way. She's definitely going to use the Force at some point, but I don't think it's going to be how we expect.
Yeah, that would be really interesting for me to see for sure. I definitely think that a lot of her, in my opinion, like I don't want to undermine her Mandalorian training because like that's still, really like kind of part of her. So I hope it doesn't go like too far where she kind of loses her Mandalorian roots. But I mean, I don't think so, considering in episode 4 we see her use her blasters there when there's like a moment where you're like, is she going to use the Force?
Yeah. Well, I'd say we should just jump right into episode 4.
Yep.
If I like had to give like a quick score for reference, I consider 5 average, not 7 like a traditional
Thanks for prefacing
school
that.
grading scale. Well, I say that because people like get all mixed up because everyone has different definitions of what the numbers are. But so 7 to me means it was good. It was pretty good. So I would give that episode like a 7.5. Episode 3.
Yeah,
Just throw a score out there. Again, that's not like an IGN 7. That's just like a I thought it was pretty good, but it wasn't like crazy.
For sure. And I mean, I kind of late now, but here's my spoiler tag. But I mean, we didn't really spoil anything from episode 3 anyway, but from here on out, it's definitely, we're going full in. We're talking about everything, especially the things that we really want to talk about, which are kind of the big spoiler things. So, but anyway, episode 3 kind of ends with them stranded on a planet after a very brief skirmish with the Magistrate's Hyperjump ship. And then they, get hit once. Ahsoka goes out, does some, flips around the ship, and they fix it. They go down to the surface, and then Baylan sends a bunch of droids to go hunt down Ahsoka and Sabine and get just hunt them down because they already have the orb. So really just to hunt them down and stop them from interfering with kind of their plans to get the coordinates to the new galaxy.
Yes, I agree. Quick note, this almost feels like episodes 3 and 4 are supposed to be one episode.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way. They both felt almost short. I mean, they weren't that short, but like I felt like they went by so quickly. I was like, come on, that can't possibly be it already.
Yeah, I feel like they felt short for different reasons. Like, but it wasn't like a short where it's like, oh man, they didn't like accomplish what they needed to in that episode. It was more like that was good and I wanted to see more of it. And that's why I think 3 and 4 was supposed to be one, because we'll get to it. But episode 4 has a break in it where it seems like they wanted to end the episode there, whereas this one feels like,
yeah, agreed.
It was a point, but they didn't have to. They could have just kept going.
Yeah, they probably like had it all as one episode, but then realized that was going to be like a 70-minute episode and was like, it's like at that weird interval where like, do you break it into 2 35-minute episodes or do you keep it all as one? I feel like they kind of struggled with that a little bit.
You need to make this 8 so you retain subscribers for longer.
Yeah, okay, that's probably fair too. I'm sure there's some studio interference with the reason why there are a certain number of episodes.
All right, well, yeah, I liked it. So if you had to give it a grade, what would you
Yeah, I mean, I think I fall around, that 7 kind of score that you gave it. It definitely just felt like it was leading up. There just not a lot happened. It was really set up for episode 4, which is where we really get into it.
Yeah, it felt like Act 1 of episode 4.
Correct. So, I mean, all right, we're in episode 4 now. They're on the ground. Ahsoka and Sabine kind of take off. They tell Huyang to be like, hey, fix the ship or whatever. Get a message out to Hera as soon as you can. Actually, not that I say that, but in episode 3, there was a scene with Hera where she was trying to convince the New Republic to send help, because there's this major threat happening, but in classic New Republic fashion, they're essentially useless and do not do that. And Hera just kind of goes AWOL and says, okay, well, whatever, I'm going to go help him. So she actually I don't think she actually takes off to episode 4, but she definitely has that conversation in episode 3.
I do have one nitpick about that scene, and I'm not one to like really do that, but I did think it was weird that she didn't bring up the fact that they literally saw them steal a Star Destroyer hyperdrive, and like they were just not interested. Like you would think that they would at least be interested in like getting that back.
Agreed.
Right?
I had that thought that she was not making the most compelling argument either when I heard her. I was like, okay, like everything you're saying sounds pretty non-urgent, but like I feel like there was definitely a way to explain what had happened and what was happening in a way more critical sense. Like even if they're not looking for Thrawn and Ezra, the fact that they're building this crazy ship and stealing, I assume, multi-billion credit pieces of equipment, that should be enough to raise some alarms.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like I literally saw like a guy with red lightsabers come out and fight Ahsoka, and like
agreed.
I mean, I don't think they would have helped anyway. I'm not saying that to be like, oh, there's like a logic hole here. I just think that I feel like that scene must have been there and they cut it or something, because like
it definitely could have been. You could kind of see like
she didn't say it.
Yeah, you could see like the pain in Mon Mothma's eyes, I feel like, too, where she was like, like, Hera, I agree with you, but like there's no way this is happening.
Yeah, I agree with that. Maybe she was gonna get to it, but then the one senator like
he really
upset and,
agreed,
like, threw her off.
But anyway, so Ahsoka and Sabine are going off to kind of find the relic of the map, and they encounter the Inquisitor and they encounter Shin. So then in, classic fashion, they break apart and Ahsoka goes to deal with the Inquisitor while Sabine stays and deals with Shin.
Yes, that was pretty cool. That whole scene at the start of the episode, pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, it definitely was. And I wasn't expecting that fight to really be there. Like I thought that was, when we saw that in the trailers, I assumed that was going to be later in the series, but obviously not. It was in episode 4.
Yep, I did know it would be in this episode because I saw leaks, but there was a lot that happened that I was not expecting, even as somebody who's been following some of the leaks. Not everything, but one, I like that you can see how distressed Sabine is without her saying much. She can't find the thing she's looking for. Ahsoka tells her to relax. It's a good moment between them.
Yeah.
And then she senses that Huyang is in danger and comes out, and we get to see him fight a little bit, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like actually like throwing punches.
Yeah, it was really
awesome.
funny, which I mean makes sense as a combat training droid. You would think that he would have some capability to defend himself.
Yeah, so that was really cool. That little fight in the beginning was cool. Got to see Sabine do her like Mandalorian stuff and Ahsoka wreck shop. Ahsoka's definitely, I'm not gonna say she's like fully using the dark side or anything, but she's definitely aggressive. Like she picked the guy up. I don't think she was a droid. She picked the person up and used them as a shield.
Yeah.
It's like, jeez.
I would have to agree with you. I feel like she's really leaned into not being a Jedi and being just like someone who uses the Force to essentially do what she needs it to do, whether that, regardless of kind of the way she's using it in the light side or the dark side. And like,
she's not considering the ethics of every single action she takes. I mean, she is clearly scared of attachment, but that seems like it's born more out of fear than principle.
Honestly, I kind of had predicted this in one of my earlier videos, but the Inquisitor was really no match for Ahsoka, right? I mean, she just kind of stood there for a second, centered herself. The Inquisitor went after her, and she just like one hit takes him out.
Yeah, that was awesome. And I was totally off base with it seeming like he like was kind of pulling it together in episode 2. I guess she wasn't trying to kill him in episode 2.
No, there was a lot going on too. But here,
So,
when
yeah,
she didn't pull any punches here, and it was just like the quickest fight ever. It
she
was like,
didn't
it
even take out
reminded me
both
of like
lightsabers.
the Maul Obi-Wan fight on Tatooine.
Yeah, I think they were trying to evoke that too. Also, the stance that she took was the same one that Anakin takes in Episode 2, and I think at the start of the Dooku fight in Episode 3.
That's really interesting. I believe that
But
because I
definitely
noticed
Episode 2.
that her stance. I was like, that's not her typical stance when she did that.
Yeah, they're definitely evoking a lot of Anakin in the way that she fights. So it was pretty cool.
That is
to
really
see that.
cool.
And then he burst into a puff of green smoke, which was hilarious. So all
Yeah.
of those theories got tossed in the bin.
Yes. I mean, honestly, I feel like your theory from last week was pretty spot on. You thought, maybe he's like a zombie with some Dathomiri magic, but I mean, this is about as close as you can get to that. He was essentially still Dathomiri magic, and he had that green smoke that we had kind of talked about last week.
Yeah, and I'm wondering. I mean, it could be that's it, and they'll explain it like later. It was for those that don't know, like the Night Sister magic, they can reanimate people, not in the sense of where they retain all of their identity, but their physical body.
So I'm kind of thinking that the magistrate is probably able to kind of keep bringing that Inquisitor back, I would think. To me, it felt like a soul or something that was kind of escaping, and I feel like that's something that she could just kind of keep using over and over again. Maybe it was an Inquisitor that they found that was dead or something, and she kind of took the essence of that Inquisitor and made it like a bodyguard or whatever. But I feel like that's not the last we'll see of that Inquisitor.
No, and if not, I think it'll play into something of how she's gonna help Thrawn. At least with maybe not that specifically, but with some sort of Night Sister magic. And she, what I thought was interesting is that based on what she said in previous episodes, she doesn't know Marrok. She said something about like, "Are you sure you can handle this?" or something along those lines in a previous episode. And Baylan was like, "Yeah, like you'll be fine." So I'm wondering if Baylan and Shin met Marrok at some point before then he died, or he was weak or something, and then she enhanced him or brought him back with her magic later to explain how Baylan and Shin seem to be like more familiar with him.
Yeah, I could definitely see a case in which either Baylan or Shin actually was the one to take out Marrok maybe earlier, and that's why they have him. He probably brought him back or something, or the magistrate was there being defended by Baylan at the time, or something like that. I feel like there is probably some kind of history, at least a little bit, with Baylan.
Yeah, I agree. But like moving on from that, well, actually, slightly before this, Hera basically says, "All right, I'm gonna go do this myself then," and then a few X-wings join her, including the guy from Mandalorian.
Yep.
And so that was pretty cool. We go see her go do that, and then they jump into hyperspace, and it cuts back to everything we've kind of been discussing.
Yep. And Sabine and Shin have their round 2 fight, and Sabine, while I don't think she's winning, I definitely think she's a lot more confident and starting to hold her own a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Sabine seems to be using her lightsaber with a little more purpose this time.
Yeah,
probably based on the training that she got with Ahsoka.
She definitely is, and I think that, like I said earlier, she's using some of her Mandalorian techniques as well, where she had that little fake out with the Force and then, took her little rockets on her wrist and shot them and kind of, I think, surprised Shin.
Yeah, that was funny because it seemed like Shin was being reflexive and reacting, expecting to get forced, pushed, or grabbed or something.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way.
And then she was like, "Oh, that didn't happen," and then taunted her, and then Sabine said, "Yeah, but I still got
rockets." Yeah. Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
I know.
And then Shin, I think, throws a smoke bomb or something and runs away.
Agreed. Back to Baylan, who then Ahsoka runs into Baylan, which I mean, come on, this is the coolest part of the episode.
Yeah,
right?
So this fight, awesome. Everything Baylan says is great. Talks about how he knows Anakin, how everyone did. If you would know what he became. Kind of thought about this before when we were bringing up the trailer stuff, but how does he know that?
I know. It's interesting because then Ahsoka's like, he never talked about you, and he's like, well, everybody knew who Anakin was. So it kind of makes me wonder if Baylan actually knew Anakin firsthand or not, or if it was just like something he heard through the grapevine,
No, I mean, I think he did know Anakin, but how he knows that he became Vader definitely begs some questions. It's possible Morgan told him because Thrawn told her.
True. Yeah.
since
That would be
Anakin
possible.
/ Vader knows Thrawn. So
Correct.
they had
And
a
Thrawn
mission
definitely
together
figured it out.
on alliances. Yep. Yeah, he figured it out. He seemed to not be too thrilled that Anakin turned into Vader. He seemed to like Anakin. Um,
Yeah, I think, yeah, he's probably not thrilled for a multitude of reasons for that.
yeah, so it's possible he found out that way. I do hope that they explain it. It's not one of those things that
Needs to be explained.
needs to be addressed right away. I would
No.
like to find out at some point though.
Yeah, that's like something in the comics, I feel like.
And then they start fighting with, I think overall, this is one of the better lightsaber fights that we've gotten in live action in I don't even know how long.
Yeah, I would
Like over a decade
absolutely
maybe.
agree. It was so good. It felt like you could feel the weight of the situation from like both sides of it. And it was really hard to completely root against Baylan. You know, you're like, I know I want Ahsoka to win this, but Baylan's just so badass.
He is. And the fact that Ahsoka drew her weapon first,
I know.
not Baylan.
I thought that same thing. Not only did she draw first, but she struck first too, which I
Yeah.
also thought was extremely interesting. I was like, wow, I was really not expect that that threw me back for sure. I noticed that immediately when Baylan just kind of like stood there and like this whole time, again, it kind of speaks back to the point we've been saying about Baylan doesn't really want to fight Ahsoka or take her down or anything, you know? He's kind of like, hey, we don't have to do this.
He seems reluctant to kill people unless he feels he has to. Now that doesn't make him a good guy, just to be clear. A lot of bad guys, come up with justifications to do bad things, but he does seem to have a little bit more morality. I would say if like evilness is a spectrum and Palpatine is 100%, Vader's like 90%, Baylan's somewhere around like 60.
Agreed. Yeah, it's definitely, if it's on a spectrum, he does what he has to, and he doesn't really have any reservations about doing what he has to. But if he doesn't have to, do something straight evil, then it doesn't seem like he really does. The thing is, I think Ahsoka did win that fight too. She eventually ended up touching the sphere and like burning her hand, losing concentration, and then I think that's really when Baylan took over and ended up winning that fight and flipping it on its head. And then obviously he was going to push her off the cliff or whatever and hit her, and then Sabine shows up at that same time, and Ahsoka's all like, just destroy the orb or whatever, and Sabine's like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, the fight itself, one, fast and fluid. I saw some people saying, and not even as like an insult to the fight or the character, that Baylan was swinging the lightsaber like a baseball bat, and I don't agree. His strikes are a lot more calculated than that. When you're swinging a baseball bat, you're sort of like not as intentional about it.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell he was intentional
he
because he had like blocks behind his back and stuff too when he was like almost dancing around the sphere, if you noticed that.
Yeah, that whole like extra, like he turned his back and then did a side swing was really cool.
Agreed.
The whole like mid-air twirl thing he did looked really cool. He's clearly hitting really hard enough that I think that's the reason Ahsoka is using one lightsaber.
I believe that as well. Yeah, because he's definitely throwing some weight into those and probably augmenting it heavily with the Force.
Yeah, he's coming in hard, and I don't think that she would have been able to fight him with two. I don't think her speed would have helped in this situation when you're hitting that hard. He says something along the lines of like, your master's legacy is destruction, and so is yours. So it's interesting. I don't know if that necessarily hints at something he thinks that Ahsoka has done or did.
To me, it felt more like something he thinks she might do, but I didn't. To me, that almost felt a little bit like a hollow like threat or just goading her.
It could be, but then he said later that she knows no other way. So it makes me feel like he's alluding to some extra information.
Well, okay,
it's possible he's just messing with her because she's Anakin's apprentice.
I think that's what I think it is. I think he is upset with Anakin still. Like, I feel like he blames Anakin for a lot of the fall of the Jedi. And because of that, when he sees Ahsoka, he's kind of reminded of that. And that's why he feels that, Anakin's Padawan is no better than he is, because they're essentially, very similar people. So to me, that's kind of the sense that I got, where he just felt kind of scorned by the Jedi Order still. Like, he still has those battle scars and everything from the Clone Wars and dealing with all that. And then he kind of feels betrayed by Anakin.
That seems like where it's going. His issue, what he wants from Thrawn seems like a means to an end, not getting Thrawn back doesn't seem to be the end goal. It seems to be this is a step in the process of whatever he wants or needs.
Correct. He definitely wants something. Obviously, they haven't said what that is yet, but I get the impression from Shin and Baylan both. I mean, more Baylan because he was around during the time, but I kind of get the impression that his mind is stuck in the past. You know, like to me, he's fixated on what happened on Order 66. He can't really move past it. That's why I think him, and he dresses Shin this way too, but like to me they look like they're in the Clone Wars armor, the Jedi armor from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know, like I get the hints of that. So to me, I feel like he could kind of be stuck that way, and this is kind of his way to, you know, move on a little bit, and whatever he wants from Thrawn is kind of a way to kind of further that and kind of distance himself from the Republic and the Emperor and all of that.
Yeah, that's definitely possible.
That's pure
think, right,
speculation.
yeah, right now we don't have a whole lot of information. We just know he's unhappy about something. He either is alluding something to specific about Ahsoka, or he's just goading her to throw her off balance. Either way, it seems to work.
Correct. She's definitely thrown off balance by the end of that episode.
Yeah, so he's pushing her. So she grabs the sphere. She does get the sphere.
Yeah.
It burns her hand. I assume from the Night Sister flame that was on it.
It was probably really hot.
Yeah. And I didn't think about that. I was like, why is it burning her hand? And I was like, oh, because there was literally a flame heating up metal right under it. And
for like hours.
Yeah, so people are speculating that like the map is burning her hand. I don't think that that's where they're going with that. I think that was just they needed a reason for her to drop it.
That's interesting theory.
It was a very like coherent and logical reason for her to drop it right there.
Yeah, well, because Baylan ends up pushing her off the cliff, and then we get to the Sabine part, which
right before that though, Shin comes back. I think Ahsoka thinks that she's dead.
Right, yes, and then she loses her concentration. Yep, I do. Yep,
loses her concentration, and she people say it's not the dark side. I think she tapped into the dark side. She very aggressively picked up Shin and tossed her against the wall really hard.
100% that was the dark side. That is not a light side maneuver that she pulled off, where you literally pick someone up and throw them against a wall. What light side user have you ever seen do that?
Yeah, they've done it to droids, but the way that she did it was aggressive. She looked like she was in some amount of pain doing it.
Agreed. I totally agree with you. I forgot about that, but you're right. Shin does show up. She thinks that Sabine lost or is dead or whatever it might be. She throws Shin around like a rag doll, and then she gets pushed off the cliff. Well, I guess Sabine shows up again.
Sabine shows up. Ahsoka tells her to destroy it.
Yep, Sabine does not do that.
Sabine hesitates. Then Baylan's like, "All right, I'm gonna." Then he like basically beats Ahsoka off the cliff.
Correct, because Sabine thinks she has something over Baylan. She tries to blackmail him into releasing Ahsoka, holding the blaster at the orb. But I think Baylan's like, I 100% know that there's no way she destroys this orb, and that's the same reason why after he pushes Ahsoka off, he literally just talks to Sabine, and he's like, "Come on, you don't want to do this."
Yeah, so he's definitely manipulating her, but I also think that he's being honest in his choice of words.
Yes, like, I agree.
He probes into her mind, right? And, learns about Ezra. That seems to be something he's really good at. And kind of uses that. Says, hey, like, look, I won't hurt you. Just give me the orb. Or give me the map and, I'll let you live. And I'll take you with us. And then he kind of like relaxes a little bit and said, I want you to come willingly.
I know. And to me, that was like the moment where I was like, wow, this is a master dark side user.
Yeah.
That is masterful, like playing the pieces to your advantage. The Sith, or even if, obviously, I don't think he's a Sith, but the Sith or the dark side users, yes, they use like rage and stuff a lot of times in the dark side, but I feel like manipulation and deception is something that's a lot more subtle and something that they excel at. And you don't get to see that very often. You get to see their rage a lot, I feel like, on screen, but you never really get to see their manipulation that they're capable of. Like, I think
outside of Palpatine,
Palpatine, I think Maul did a really good job with Ezra in Rebels of doing that kind of manipulation as well. But it's something I think is much rarer that it's shown, and in a way where you're like, yeah, like I kind of get it, like from Sabine's perspective, and like why she gives the orb to him, and be like, yeah, I mean, I can't like totally fault Sabine for kind of agreeing with Baylan at the end of the day there.
Yeah, it's like what's so good about so there's so many layers to why that scene is so incredible, and like that was the moment where I was like, this is the best episode of the season so far. He lures you in as much as he's luring Sabine in. He's like, yeah, he's kind of like making good points right now.
Yeah,
But and then he disarms you like with the I want you to come willingly, I won't hurt you. And you don't get the sense that he's lying either.
yeah.
And
I think that's the masterful thing is I think they weave truths in there a lot of times too, you know, to the things that they say. And that's what makes them so convincing because you do believe them. And a lot of times they do kind of follow through on what they say.
yeah, that's the key to good manipulation is that like there is truth into what they're saying. If there wasn't, then the manipulation wouldn't work.
Agreed.
Or at least nearly as effectively. I mean, that's how Palpatine was able to get Anakin, was that he was saying things that were true, but sort of also weaving in the lying and the exaggerating and things like that. But Baylan, I feel like he stated what the situation was.
Yep.
And he gave her that choice. But I also think the other reason I think this scene is so good is that I don't think Sabine could have destroyed the orb even if she wanted to. Because we see later, after they get all the map data, that Baylan plunges his lightsaber into it, and it takes like a good few seconds of constant lightsaber to destroy it. So I think it's a lot more resilient than that, and I don't think her blaster would have even done anything, even if she wanted to.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I think there's a good chance that Baylan knew that. So that's the other layer of maybe his offer was completely genuine. It was manipulation in the sense that he was also getting what he wanted. He basically had no stakes in whether or not
she shot
because the map wasn't going to get destroyed anyway. So it seemed like he really doesn't want to kill people unless he has to. Yeah. And he even stopped Shin from killing Sabine right after that.
He did. So he's a man of his word, at least for now.
And I think I saw somebody equate this to like a Star-Lord moment from her from Infinity War, and I really don't agree with that. I haven't seen like a lot of people say this. I just saw someone say it, and I think there's a pretty clear difference. One, there's like a real temptation here.
Yeah.
Like Ezra is alive as far as they know, and this is the only way that, as far as they know, Sabine's going to be able to go get to see him. And as far as she knows, Ahsoka just
died,
or at least as far as we think that she knows. Maybe she knows something that we don't. Because she does say earlier in the episode to trust her, so maybe there's more going on than we think. But right now, it just seems like she's in a vulnerable position, and she made the incorrect choice, the choice that a younger Ahsoka and Anakin would have made in the exact same situation.
Agreed. Yeah, that's funny because definitely I feel like Anakin or Ahsoka, if they were in Sabine's position, probably would not have destroyed the orb if they was their younger selves.
No, if that was Padme, Anakin would have given him the orb. If that was Anakin, Ahsoka definitely would have given him the orb too. Like it's not even in my mind debatable that that's the case. And she had a real temptation. I see why she made that choice. I think most normal people would have made that choice.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, that's literally her only hope to get Ezra back. And they did mention in here, which I mean, I guess it was kind of assumed, but her whole family's dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a really good. Like, the whole clan Wren is dead. I assume when
Mandalore was wiped out on the 1,000 Tears or whatever.
Yeah, when the Empire wiped them out. I guess right before A New Hope or some point during the movie.
I was pretty shocked to learn that, honestly, because I thought like, there's no way they kill off all of the Wrens, do they? Like, there's somewhere. Like, Bo-Katan's still around, so I figured, you know, as a former Night Sister. What are they called? They're Night Owls.
Night Owls?
The Night Owls. Yes, thank you. The Night Owls. So, but as a former Night Owl, I thought, you know, we've seen other former Night Owls with Bo-Katan recently in The Mandalorian, so I figured Clan Wren survived, but it sounds like they definitely did not.
No, they didn't, and he mentioned something about how that's somehow Ahsoka's fault for not trusting her or something along those lines, and I'd be interested to see them elaborate on that.
So to me, that means that Ahsoka trained Sabine. Sabine was like, oh, hey, I have to go save my family, kind of like Luke with Yoda, right? And then he's like, hey, I got to go save my friends. And Yoda's like, nah, you can't do that. We got training to do. And Luke says, you know, F you, dude, I'm going to save my friends. Whereas it seems like here it was a similar situation, but Sabine listened to Ahsoka.
Yeah. So, and it's definitely going to be one of those cases where Sabine couldn't have done anything. Sort of a similar situation where, you know, how Obi-Wan and Yoda didn't want Luke to go to Cloud City.
Correct.
Because he ended up not even helping. So,
That's true. If you look at it from that perspective.
Well, it had to have happened during the events of the original trilogy.
Definitely during the events of the
right
original
before.
trilogy. I think it could have been like, honestly, yeah, right before, possibly, is probably when Sabine was training with Ahsoka, I feel like. Either way, I just thought that was a really big piece of information they dropped in that line. And I feel like at some point it would make a lot of sense to go a little deeper into that.
Yeah, it's not explicitly clear when it happened. I'm seeing kind of conflicting dates. Maybe somebody in the comments could give us a little heads up. I don't see it on the wiki, but I'm sort of just scanning it.
Yeah, I don't think they actually like ever said explicitly, but
it had to have happened either right before the original trilogy because or during the original trilogy, since Ahsoka didn't meet Sabine until later.
correct.
So
only a few years, like 3 years out from Battle of Yavin, I think, is roughly when they met.
yeah, so it had to have happened at some point around that time period, which means it's interesting because it also had to have happened after Ezra saved Ahsoka in the World Between Worlds.
Yep, and it would have to have happened after Thrawn was gone too.
Yeah, because they didn't train her by that point.
Correct.
So yeah, so around.
Yeah.
So that also means Ahsoka was around during the events of the original trilogy. She
Yeah.
was just doing something else.
Correct. That is what that means.
Maybe I hope they elaborate on the past of so we can actually see that and it's not all just assumed.
Yeah, I think honestly that's kind of important to Sabine's character development and kind of accepting the fate of her people. So I really think that should be part of this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And so that was really good. And then, well, they complete the hyperspace. They get the coordinates that they need. Some crazy sound effects. The whole sound design throughout this whole episode was really good. The lightsabers, the music, and Hera tries to I guess form a small blockade because I don't think that under normal circumstances you can't just go to hyperspace with ships right in front of you because it can create some sort of issue.
Yeah, no issues seem to be created here.
Yeah, and
issues for the little ships.
Yeah, it just created a shockwave basically.
Yeah,
and
a big one.
Destroyed a couple of the ships, and that was really crazy. And then Jason says, "Oh, I have a bad feeling," and I don't think it's I have a bad feeling because this specific thing I don't think he's reacting to what just happened necessarily. I think he felt it in the Force that something was really wrong.
Absolutely.
It wasn't
felt it in the Force.
I need to make sure the audience understands that what just happened was bad. I don't think it's that. I think some people may have interpreted it that way. I don't think it's that silly. I think it's literally he felt something.
Yeah.
Some sort of cascading of events from that happening. So that was a really cool scene. The whole sound effect of that, the ring rising from the clouds. And so now they're on their way. Sabine's in tow. And then we get back to Seatos, and there's a really cool editing thing or transition where it kind of pans out from the water and then it slowly becomes more fluorescent.
Yep.
Until we see Ahsoka's face. So before we get to this part, this episode to me was already 10 out of 10 before this part. I wasn't expecting this. This part wasn't in the leaks as far as I know. And why don't you take it away from here?
Yeah, so I mean, Ahsoka ends up, she fell off the cliff and we weren't exactly sure where she was. I was kind of expecting her just to be in the water or something and kind of float up, but then it pans to just her face and slowly zooms out, and it's very clearly she's in the World Between Worlds. How she got there, I have no idea. I'm thinking Anakin literally yanked her ass in there in a similar way that we were talking about with Shadow of the Sith when Anakin yanked Luke away from Exegol. But anyway, we hear whispers at first of hey, Snips, I didn't think we'd meet this soon. And then obviously she gets up and she's kind of confused, hearing voices or whatever. Then she turns around and literally sees Hayden Christensen right there.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Wasn't expecting it. Kind of squealed a little bit. I already knew Anakin was going to be in the show, but I didn't know he was going to be in this episode.
No, and not this way either. I mean,
not
maybe,
this way either.
This is how I hoped it was going to be. I just didn't expect to actually see it.
Yeah, I didn't expect to see it, and this soon.
Yeah, episode 4, and now episode 5 is entirely directed by Dave Filoni, and it's the longest episode, or one of the longest episodes.
I think it's about as long as the first episode, which was 50 minutes.
Yeah,
and then they're actually screening it across the United States.
I know, at a few theaters. Of course, I don't think we're next to any of those theaters.
They're all, I think, an hour plus away from us, but also on a work day, so it's probably not going to happen for us. But so some crazy stuff must go down in this episode. The last thing that happens is kind of this happy music. She's like really excited to see him. She has this like shock, but also like sense of happiness on her face.
Yeah, same with me.
Yeah, that's my thought. And then the screen cuts to black, and then it turns into the Vader theme. And I was like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
So there's...
Oh, you think there's a possibility that this is Vader from the past?
So I think there's a few ways this could go, and I want to like kind of go from like least likely to most likely. So I think least likely, I've seen some people say this is straight up Revenge of the Sith Anakin for some reason wandered into the world between worlds before or at some point during the 2-week time span that the movie takes place.
Yeah.
And then like the lesson's gonna be that Ahsoka has to not tell him of his future and let things play out as they are.
Ooh, wow, that would hurt so bad.
That would hurt, and I don't think that's gonna be the case for multiple reasons.
And you're sadistic.
Well, so Star Wars Explained, the YouTube channel, he was the first one I saw say that, but he's not the only. I've seen a lot of people say that, and
it does
I don't think it's
like
that.
Revenge of the Sith Anakin.
It does. It does look like Revenge of the Sith. So it's curious that it doesn't. He's not in the Jedi robes he was in when he first became a Force Ghost.
Yeah.
He's not like blue or translucent. I have some theories about that in regards to the world between worlds. So the reason I don't think it's that is for a few reasons. One, I don't know when he would have had the time to do that. I guess like as he was trying to find ways to save Padme, maybe it could have come up, but it'd be a really weird thing to not mention in the movie if it happened, at least from Anakin to Palpatine.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that they don't mention in the movie because it gets retconned later, right? Like the entire Siege of Mandalore that took place in Clone Wars Season 7. There
is, but it makes sense in the context of the movie why those things aren't mentioned. With the explicit purpose of Anakin getting those premonitions and wanting to save Padme, it seems weird that it wouldn't have gotten brought up.
Yeah.
And then I don't know when he would have done that in the movie. He seemed pretty like stressed out and kind of between the light and the dark. And
yeah, he looks pretty relaxed in that scene that we saw him in.
Yeah. He looks relaxed now too, and he seems like happy. So like I don't.
When was the last time he was happy?
I don't think it's that. The lighting on his lightsaber. Now, a lot of people pointed this out. That, like, it is structurally Anakin's lightsaber, not Darth Vader's lightsaber. But the way the shadows cast on it makes it almost black.
Interesting. I didn't notice that.
It almost feels like a lighting error, just because it's so black that it doesn't just look like a reflection. It looks like almost like he has black cloth covering it.
Interesting.
I don't think that's the case. I think it probably is lighting, and it is his regular lightsaber.
Yeah, I feel like that as well. I mean, you're in the world between worlds. Things are a little weird there.
The other two reasons I don't think it can be that is Vader thought Ahsoka was dead. So
did he?
Yeah, because he found her lightsabers at the end of the Siege of Mandalore, presumed dead. And then in Rebels, he says, "So the apprentice lives." Like he's surprised.
Oh, well, yeah, it could not have taken place in the span of after he turned into Darth Vader and before Rebels.
Right.
Yes.
So it couldn't be that. Now, from the way that we understand it, I don't think it's easy or maybe not even possible for Sith/regular Darksiders to enter the world between worlds because Palpatine needed Ezra to let him in. That's the reason I don't think it's Darth Vader even from later in the timeline.
Interesting theory.
Yeah. Also, the other reason it would be really weird. So the reason specifically, like him thinking Ahsoka is dead by that point matters is because he's seeing an older version of Ahsoka. So he would know that she lives past a certain point, and the points at which she would have died, she wouldn't have looked like that.
Yeah.
When he thought she was dead.
The reason I don't think it's that, even though I do think that is just like crazy evil to do that to us as the audience. The other reason I don't think that is because he says, he's like, "I'm seeing you sooner than I expected," right? I think he said that in there. So like clearly I feel like he's been waiting for her for a while.
That's the impression.
That is my impression.
I'm getting. And I guess you could make the argument that it still could be that, like, if he literally just saw her after the Siege of Mandalore, then like a week later stumbled in there, then like
yeah, I guess, but I feel like that's not how he said it. You know,
I don't think so, and I don't think Filoni wants to mess with what is in Revenge of the Sith. He might provide additional context to certain things, but he's not going to add new events like that significant. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I don't think it's that. I think Ahsoka's going to learn the lesson another way. The third option, which I think if there's a dark side tinge to this, it's this, is that it could be the son from Mortis, because I think what we understand
He's
from
dead.
Rebels, yeah, but the daughter was technically dead too, but she's been following Ahsoka around with as like a little owl creature.
Well, it's because Ahsoka is the daughter.
Sort of.
She has the daughter's life force.
So, but we don't really know what happens to them when they die. They're not mortal, I don't think, in the same way that normal people are in the Star Wars universe. So they kind of I don't know that they're gods, but I don't think that they are mortals either, like something in between that. So it's possible that death works differently for them, and it is the son or something like him manipulating Ahsoka, maybe to let him out, maybe he's trapped there. That would be a lot to explore.
That would be a lot.
I don't think
have to have seen the Mortis arc, and like I don't think that they're gonna set up enough for that to be relevant to most of the audience. That's a very specific arc in the middle of like season 3 of Clone Wars, so it's like it's not even like anybody that's seen Clone Wars has seen the Mortis arc. It's like,
yeah, a very small percentage of even Star Wars fans have seen Clone Wars, and then you extrapolate that to a larger audience and it's even smaller than that. That being said, I don't think you necessarily had to have seen Mortis to like look at the son visually and understand he's a bad guy. You probably shouldn't let him out.
That's true.
It's probably not that.
No, probably not. He is capable of changing his look, though.
He is. He's capable of shapeshifting. He did something similar to manipulate Anakin in the Mortis arc by appearing as his mother.
Yeah.
So it's not like there is some grounding to this.
Yeah. And I mean, also Filoni has done the father, brother, and sister in Rebels too, with the pictures, and honestly, literally with the World Between Worlds when Ezra goes in there. So that's literally the depiction on the wall.
Yeah, so Mortis, the son, the daughter, and the father are connected to the World Between Worlds in some way. So it's probably not that. The other evidence, quote unquote, for that is that in the first episode, Ahsoka's hears like kind of creepy whispers when she's in the temple. Yep. Figures on the wall sort of resemble the Mortis people or some sort of ancient civilization. Yep. And the whispers, Sam Witwer is credited in the episodes. He could just be a totally background person, but the whispers, it does sort of sound like Sam Witwer. People initially thought it was Darth Maul. I'm like, that makes no sense. Something about like, is he the chosen one? And it's sort of, and if you listen to it, you can definitely make that out. Yeah. But it could also just be like random words strewn together that just happen to sound.
Yeah.
Like the sound effects and the whispers sort of sound like that, and we're kind of like making this leap, this connection.
It's definitely possible.
But it would make sense then why Sam Witwer was credited if he's not just a random background. And that could be like the bit of hint for enfranchised fans to kind of speculate on.
Yep.
And the only reason we think that might be the case is because of that and because of the dark side theme that plays at the end, Vader's theme.
That's true.
The more innocuous explanation for that, though, is that the last time Ahsoka saw Anakin, he was trying to kill her as Darth Vader. And so it could just be illustrating her conflicting feelings that this is going to be like a really stressful moment for her. It doesn't necessarily have to mean like any of that's going on. The other two, in my mind, are... The first one I would say is it's not Anakin. It's a manifestation of her guilt. And it's the Force itself, kind of like the dark side cave stuff. Like she's bringing her baggage with it into the World Between Worlds.
That's interesting.
The problem with that is then how did she even get there? Unless the Force itself willed it. Maybe Morai, the owl daughter person, got her in there. And maybe this is part of her journey. That's very possible that that's the case. I think that'd be kind of lame if it wasn't just straight up Anakin. Yeah. If it was that specifically. Like, I think it being the son is interesting, but it just being like sort of her imagination more or less is, I think, the least interesting answer. And that's not to say that even if that's the case that the episode will be bad or anything. I think next week's going to be crazy. But that to me is the least interesting, whereas like it being Revenge of the Sith Anakin is the most preposterous possibility.
And Ahsoka, I mean, obviously she has met the brother before. She was killed by him, literally. So
Yeah, and I've seen people say this. I haven't seen this Rebels episode in a long time, so I could be wrong about that. Is that Mora, the daughter, lets people in, and the son sort of guards the world between worlds. So it is possible that he would naturally be there, but it seems kind of insane to give that sort of power to somebody who is sort of an embodiment of the dark side.
does seem like kind of a confliction of interest.
Yeah, so he might be stuck there.
I don't know, man. I think he's dead.
Yeah, he's probably just dead. It's probably not him. I remember people thought Snoke was the son, which would have been cool, but obviously not the case. And the thing that kind of lends credence it to being not necessarily Anakin also is the fact that he's in the Revenge of the Sith garb, has his old lightsaber, has seemingly his mechanical hand, his scar. He looks straight ripped out of the movie.
Yeah, he does.
And that's how he looked when Ahsoka last saw him. It's possible he's just appearing that way because that's
the last time she saw him as a good guy.
Yeah, but it could be that could lend credence to the idea that it's sort of in her head because that's how she's viewing it. Kind of like how when Luke went into the dark side cave on Dagobah, when he cut open Vader's mask, it was him inside of it because he's sort of projecting his fears onto that.
Yeah,
so it could be that. Not saying that would be bad. And the other thing about that is it would also be consistent sort of with what we've seen is that you kind of have to be open to seeing the Force Ghost. You have to want to.
Correct.
On some level, the rules could be different in the World Between Worlds. The rules could be different with Anakin himself because he's the chosen one, born from the Force and everything. So all of that's sort of tenuous at best. We don't really know. And then the most likely option is that is Anakin and that is his Force Ghost, and then the dark side kind of melody is just something just to show how Ahsoka's feeling. I do think there's something more going on. That's why I'm leaning on the air of it really might not be Anakin. If it's not the son, it could be something else entirely.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I kind of feel like it is. I feel like he just yanked her ass out. I mean, he did that with Luke in Shadow of the Sith too. Like, he's capable of doing that.
Spoilers for the Return of the Jedi POV book that just came out, but basically, like, the moment that he dies, the first people he thinks of are his mother, Padme, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and I think maybe Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it stands to reason he'd be kind of watching over them, and maybe the War Between Worlds is sort of this place outside of space and time, so it doesn't require exertion of energy for him to manifest there.
That's kind of what I was thinking. It is literally a realm of the Force.
Yeah, exactly. And
basically like Ahsoka going to his plane, not the opposite.
Yeah, so maybe that's just where Force Ghost can kind of just be. There's a lot of options. I think the most likely is that it's the Force Ghost, and the theme is just because he's going to have her confront all these emotions and stuff. But it is ominous, and I think that there's enough there for people to think that something else might be going on.
Yeah,
the cool part is that kind of no matter what it is, it's going to be a cool episode.
Oh, I'm so excited for this episode. This next episode is just like, I can't wait. It feels so far away.
I know, and it's so close.
It is. By the time I release this video, it's going to be even closer.
Exactly. I guess the one thing working against it being a Force Ghost is that the dark robes that he's wearing, like, that outfit was chosen very purposefully for the film. And I think Filoni knows that. So unless there's like a different reason, like we talked about with him appearing the way that is comfortable to her, or it just being a manifestation of the Force.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, I guess we will definitely be finding out on Wednesday. Or Tuesday night if you stay up.
Yeah, I guess that's only 9 o'clock for East Coast US. I guess if you're UK or SOL.
Yeah. All right, but I think that's gonna wrap it up. Do you have anything else you want to touch on? I feel like that we kind of hit the bulk of it.
Yeah, we hit the bulk of it. Episode was 10 out of 10. I guess if I had to nitpick a little bit, I don't think they needed to de-age Anakin. But if it's supposed to be appearing how she remembers him, then like that's fine. I also don't really care because I thought he looked good, but he did look a little off, like a little too smooth.
Agreed.
But,
I had that thought.
But it didn't ruin the moment or anything because I was just so excited.
Yeah, same. I know.
Real quick, I think the thing working against it being a manifestation of just the Force itself, just trying to teach her something, is the fact that he says, "I didn't expect to see you so soon."
Yeah, like that's the line that got me, which made me think it's Anakin and not Vader. Because like
Not Vader, not a past version of him, like something else. It's current Anakin.
yeah, that, I mean, to me, that's the line that I really felt like, oh, it's Anakin, and he's just been waiting for a little while since he died, which honestly, at this point, hasn't even been that long. He's only been dead for like 5 years, 6 years.
Oh, so do you think Ahsoka's dead right now, or do you think, or like on the verge of death?
Oh, that'd be wild. I mean, I didn't think Baylan really did anything that would like kill her. Like nothing.
Well, it was a
looked like...
pretty tall cliff, and unless she slowed herself down, hitting water from that high is like hitting concrete. So,
Dude, I've seen her jump off of like starships onto the ground, like 5,000 feet below.
yeah, she's probably not dead unless she hit herself on something.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I guess
think
she
it's
could
more
have been
likely
like
that-
super distracted, so she couldn't use the force. But I mean,
I think someone yanked her in there.
I think so too.
Every time we've seen the World Between Worlds, someone went there on purpose.
She's not even wet, so she didn't even hit the water.
Yeah, oh, true. I mean, that could just be like an oversight, but I think more likely, like you're correct. She's kind of in a space outside of that, and this is gonna be her Balrog moment. She's gonna become Ahsoka the White.
Ahsoka the White, it's coming. By the end of this season, she is gonna get that cloak and awesome staff.
Yes. So fantastic episode. I loved
Yep.
it.
Same here. 10 out of 10 for me as well. I can't wait to see where they go. So I'm just so excited to see this quality of Star Wars in live action again.
Yeah, I agree. This is the closest I think it's felt like to the first 6 movies. I think the sequel trilogy are very like pretty looking movies, but visually in their language and stuff and the way that they present things, they're really only aesthetically like the original trilogy.
Yeah.
They don't really use the same
Doesn't have the same feel.
ways of presenting information or themes or parallels or anything like that. So this is the closest I think it's felt to the first 6 movies, and it's really
Agreed.
good. So I was really blown away, and yeah.
Yep. Same here. All right. Well, let us know, what did you think of this episode? Episode 4, we finally got the reveal of Anakin Skywalker, so we think. Let us know. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What are you looking forward to? I'm Keeks, and I will catch you all next time for some more Star Wars content.